everyone. I am excited to have another super special guest with us to talk about his experience in the military. So today we have Ronnie. Ronnie, would you take a moment to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay. I'm Ronnie Briggum. I am a Wilson graduate, graduated in 1991. 1992, I joined the United States Marine Corps, served for 6 years, got out in 98, went on afterwards and had a 20-year career in law enforcement, retired from that, and currently I am a pest control manager for a local pest control company.
Oh, so nice. Thank you for sharing that introduction. So you graduated from Wilson, and then did you go straight into the Marine Corps
I,
on graduation?
I took a year in between.
Okay.
There was a year I enlisted in July of 91 and did not ship to boot camp until March of 92.
Okay. So once you went to boot camp, graduated from boot camp, can you tell us a little bit about your time in the military, that journey from, boot camp graduation to when you got out?
Yeah. So I actually served in the reserves.
Okay.
I was over in Huntsville in Kilo Battery. Um, there's a couple other Wilson alumni that was in that unit with me as well, but went from high school not knowing really what I wanted to do other than be a Marine and be a police officer. So I made that come true. Shipped, like I said, in March. When I was there at Paris Island, I ended up with a knee injury, spent an additional 2 months there. Come back, graduated from boot camp August 28th of 92. Went on to MCT, which is Marine Combat Training that all Marines go through after boot camp. It's an additional 30 days of learning to be a warrior, basically, and then off to MOS school, which is your occupation, what you're going to do while you're in the military. Reported to my unit in December of 92 and had a blast for the next 6 years.
So could you share with us, what is the difference between active duty and reserves?
So active duty, obviously you're gone away. I mean, usually it's a 4-year enlistment that you do. You're going to be stationed wherever they want you stationed. When you're in the reserves, you're back home. You go 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. You still live a civilian life for the majority of the month, but once you earn that title, you're always a Marine. You always conduct yourself as a Marine. I took the benefits of attending Northwest Shoals Community College for a while, letting the Marine Corps pay for that, and then just had a regular life outside of it. Reporting in 1 weekend a month.
Okay. So you mentioned that you had a career in law enforcement.
Correct.
Do you think what the training you went through with the Marine Corps, did that help you with this career path?
Absolutely, it did.
Okay.
Absolutely, it did. Being a law enforcement officer, you have to have discipline, and the Marine Corps taught me discipline. There's no doubt about that. You learned that in the Marine Corps. So yes, I really do. I felt that it was what instilled in me who I was as a person. Learning that through the Marine Corps and what they instilled in me to be able to take that out and to serve my public back home.
So you mentioned that you went to your MOS training. And so what was your job? What was your role when you were in the Marine Corps?
So I was technically a motor vehicle operator.
Okay.
I drove Humvees for the brass. I was the XO of the executive officer of the battery, his driver for a little while. And then I moved into a 5-ton where I would drive the ammo trucks. We were a howitzer battery. And I would drive sorry, I was getting a call. I had to reject that real quick. But moved to driving ammo trucks and made friends on the gun line and hung out there, and should probably have picked up a secondary MOS as a howitzer gunner. But just really learned the teamwork of preparing to put rounds down range. A lot of fun in that.
Okay.
So
Okay. So with you being in the reserves out of Huntsville, were you deployed at any point? Did you, I know you mentioned that you would have to go 2 weeks out of the year and then, a week in a month, but were there other times that you were away from your family?
So the Gulf War was my senior year.
Okay.
So I did not go. My battery did. They were Kilo Battery out of Huntsville was the first reserve unit in the Marine Corps reserves to put rounds downrange during the Gulf War. Another one of our alumni, Keith O'Kelly, was in the Gulf War during that time with Kilo Battery. I did not. The closest I got was Somalia when that happened with Somalia, Black Hawk Down. We were put on standby. Other than that, no, it was just going to do my training. We went to one year. It was Fort Bragg for 2 weeks. We went to Fort Knox for 2 weeks, Fort Sill for 2 weeks, 29 Palms, California, two different times for 2 weeks. Miserable, hated it out there. Made sure I left nothing in California.
So it sounds like someone that may not be quite ready to, be away from family or still is interested in living a civilian life. Maybe the reserves might be a good option for them.
Absolutely. And a perfect example of that is my older brother, who is also an alumni from Wilson. He graduated '89. He joined the reserves between his junior senior year in the Army. You're allowed to do that. And
Okay.
then he wanted to do that and pursue college. He got tired of college and he augmented over and went and did 23 years on active duty Army and
Okay.
retired. So yes, that is the option with branches. And I was told that by my recruiter that I could go active duty. When I got the Kilo Battery, they said, "Well, sorry, we own you for 6 years. You belong to us." And I never pursued it after that. I was just like, "Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine with it."
Yeah.
So
What would you say it was probably the best aspect of joining the Marine Corps?
the camaraderie, the friendships that you build, the Marines become your family. You rely on them. When you go in, a lot of people go, "Well, you're a weekend warrior. You go in for the one weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. You don't get that, but you do because the time that you get there until the time that you leave, it's nonstop training, and you're preparing yourself if you have to deploy,
Yeah.
and you learn to rely on them. And I was able to take and carry that over into my law enforcement career of having to rely on my brothers and sisters behind the badge. So that is probably the best aspect that I got out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah. What would you say was probably the most challenging aspect?
Boot camp.
I
the
can
the, uh,
imagine.
the rigorous portions of boot camp that was very physical in the Marine Corps. I'm not saying it just because I am a Marine,
Mhm.
but if you take the four branches and you put them side by side and you compare apples to apples, um, oranges and oranges, and you will find that the Marine Corps is by far the most physical demanding throughout the boot camp phase, basic training, whatever branch you go into, they call it different. But by far, it was the most challenging.
Mhm.
Um, we had, 13, it was originally 13 weeks. I had mentioned in the beginning that I had sustained a knee injury when I was there. So I was there for two months longer. Um, but it's physical from the time that you wake up until the time that you go to bed. And it takes you a while to adjust to that. But by the time you graduate, there's nothing physically that you can't do.
Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say, what advice do you have for students that may not know exactly what they want to do after high school? It sounded like earlier you said you were unsure. So what advice do you have for them that may be unsure about what their plans after high school are?
Most definitely, if you do not know what you want to do upon graduating high school, go in and check into one of the branches of the military. Um, the military will instill in you lifelong learning lessons.
Mhm.
There's so many benefits that you get from it. Yes, if you go active duty, or even today in the world that we live in, even the reserves, the National Guards, they're being called up on deployments.
Mhm.
There's so many benefits that's going to follow you in life. The teamwork that you're going to have, the self discipline that you're going to have, along with just benefits. I mean, let them pay for your school. And if you know later on that you want to go to school, don't take out a student loan. Go join the military and let them pay for it. They're going to pay 100% on top of paying you to go.
Yeah.
So, the military is definitely something that you need to check into if you do not know for a fact what you want to do in life. 4 years in the military will outweigh 4 years of college right off the bat.
That's such good advice. And another thing too, we were talking about your job role when you were in the reserves, and a lot of students don't realize that there's so many different job opportunities in the military. A lot of times you just think you're in the military, you're going to be, shooting a gun or, driving a tank or something. But could you kind of share maybe some different careers that you came across or you discovered while you were in the reserves?
Just about anything that you can imagine in the civilian world is going to be in the military world. You can go through officer school. If you have a college degree, they're going to find something for you, whether it's finance, the medical field, electricians, welders, you name it, police. I mean, they're there. The military has the jobs that counter the active or the civilian world. My older brother was air traffic control. So when you think air traffic control, people that are up there talking to the planes, that's what he done, but on the helicopter side because he was in the Army. That prepared him. He went on into after he retired, he went and was a Boeing manager. On the higher level, he was over the northwestern atmosphere for Boeing. And the military specifically prepared him for that. His last 3 years in the military, he was the civilian counterparts of advisor for the FAA up in Seattle, Washington. He didn't even go to his unit but once a year for the last 3 years of his military time. So any job that you could think that you possibly want to do is more than likely going to be in one of the branches of the military. If you're into wanting to learn high-tech stuff, go to the Air Force. I tell everybody, go to the Air Force if you want to do high-tech stuff, because that's where the jobs are at. And it's going to benefit you and prepare you for when you come out and join the civilian world.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm so glad that you shared that information with us. Is there any other words of wisdom you would like to leave students as we wrap up this interview?
Enjoy your time in school, but be prepared for when you graduate. Know what you want to do. Don't take the time off and sit around and go, well, I'm just going to take some time from school, or I'm going to take time before I go get a job. Go ahead and hit the ground running. It's going to benefit you further down the road in life.
I love it. Well, Ronnie, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing your words with these students.
Yes, ma'am. Semper Fi.